3 Mongols bikies, Robbie Hurmiz, 24, co-accused Tristan Workman 23, and Gabriel Verigos 20, orchestrated a vengeful act in July 2022. Their plan involved confronting a former friend, a 21-year-old victim with name suppression, who had become romantically involved with Workman's ex-girlfriend. The trio meticulously conspired and cunningly lured the victim to a desolate South Morang street, where they intended to carry out their dirty plan. Prior to traveling to South Morang, the trio met up at a house in Kalkallo, where they armed themselves with a sawn-off firearm and a handgun. They also switched the registration plates on the white Toyota Kluger. This was the vehicle to be used for the attack. They then traveled into South Morang. They also grabbed 2 white face masks and a black gaiter to conceal their faces. They then arrived in the white Kluger at Nivea Terrace, South Morang about 2:41 p.m. and eventually pulled up alongside the victim's vehicle, a gold Ford. Hurmiz was the driver, Verigos was in the front passenger seat and Workman was in the back seat. Both Hurmiz and Verigos were wearing white face masks, while Workman had raised his black neck gaiter to conceal his face. Workman was the first one to come out of the vehicle, and said to the victim, "Bro, I told you I would get you." He then started pulling him out of the Ford. Hurmiz, while still in the car, pulled out a handgun through his vehicle's window and fired it twice at the Ford. One of the shots hit the driver's side mirror, and continued through the car window before hitting the steering wheel column. However, the second shot, aimed at its intended target, grazed Workman's cheek, momentarily interrupting the ongoing violence. This near miss and the sudden pause in the mayhem intensified the tension. The victim then started running for cover before returning to put the attacker in a headlock. But he was outnumbered, as Workman and Verigos violently attacked the man by punching, kicking and stomping on him as he tried to defend himself. Verigos then brandished the sawn-off gun during the bashing. Meanwhile, Hurmiz, while sitting in the driver's seat of the Toyota, aimed his high-powered gun at the victim again, however this time he did not fire. Before fleeing the scene, Workman used a screwdriver to slash victim's tires. Once the attackers left, bystanders and witnesses called the police and ambulance at the scene. The victim was assessed by paramedics for his injuries and cuts and he was given first aid but not taken to hospital. Ballistics experts later found 2 spent rounds on the road, 3 live rounds and a single fired bullet inside the Ford. A fingerprint found on the rear of the car were identified as being left by Verigos. Police investigators were able to secure a CCTV footage of the assault from a property near the incident site, which was shown in the court and later released to the media. The court was also shown a video of some parts of the assault that was filmed by a witness on their phone. The trio was arrested and sentenced in the county court after admitting to the attack. Hurmiz faced charges for multiple firearm offenses, including being armed with intent and discharging a firearm at a vehicle with reckless disregard for safety, assault, theft of a motor vehicle, driving while unlicensed and fraudulent use of registration plates. He pleaded guilty to the charges. Verigos and Workman also pleaded guilty to charges including being armed with criminal intent and common assault. During a pre-sentence hearing, Hurmiz's defense lawyer told the court his client only intended to frighten the victim, not shoot him. In court, it was disclosed that Hurmiz hailed from a Syrian background and spent his early years residing just outside Baghdad in Iraq, during the 2003 invasion by the US. His lawyer emphasized that life during that period was marked by the constant threat of gunfights, violence, and bombings. Fleeing Iraq, his family sought refuge in Turkey for a year while arranging their passage to Australia. Hurmiz arrived in Australia around the age of 8, devoid of English language skills, which made his integration into school life challenging. Consequently, he left school after completing year 8. While he held various jobs after leaving school, such as working as a panel beater and a traffic controller, none of these positions translated into a meaningful career. Additionally, he grappled with drug dependency issues, starting with cannabis and escalating to methamphetamine and cocaine. He then joined the Mongols, seeking a sense of brotherhood and belonging that had eluded him in his earlier years. The bonds formed within the tight-knit motorcycle club offered him a community where he believed he could find the support and camaraderie he had longed for. The court was informed that there was no indication that Hurmiz was under the influence of drugs at the time of the offense, but his drug use was considered a destabilizing factor. His early life experiences remained pertinent to his ultimate sentencing. His lawyer requested the judge to consider his client's youth, his guilty plea, and the support of his family. Verigos' defense lawyer noted that her client was just 19 years old when the offense occurred. She informed the court that Verigos had been dependent on methamphetamine since experimenting with the drug at the age of 15. She also mentioned that Verigos' involvement with drugs had brought him into contact with Hurmiz and Workman, and he had no grievances with the victim and no reason to be involved in the incident. She attributed his actions to immaturity and poor decision-making. The court heard that Verigos was physically involved in the assault on July 20th for only about 10 seconds, either inside the car or standing in an intimidating capacity nearby. The lawyer emphasized that the victim did not appear to sustain any injuries, although he was undoubtedly frightened but physically unharmed. He had also demonstrated genuine remorse and had remained drug-free since being taken into custody on August 9, 2022. The lawyer said that her client looked back on his actions with regret, accepted the need for punishment, and expressed a commitment to changing his ways, hoping that the court would recognize this commitment. The judge sternly noted that the actions taken on a suburban street of Melbourne were nothing short of terrifying. This incident served as a stark example of brazen, reckless behavior, characterized by the discharge of a firearm not once, but twice. Such actions carried the potential for dire consequences that could have irreparably altered the lives of those involved and the community at large. These serious actions had the potential to cause very serious and harmful outcomes, which could have permanently and significantly changed the lives of the offenders and the victim. Hurmiz was sentenced to 3 years and 8 months behind bars, with a non-parole period of 2 years and 4 months. With time already served, he will be eligible for parole in late 2024. Verigos was sentenced to 3 years jail, with a non-parole period of 21 months. Workman was slapped with a 3-year community corrections order. While 2 of the offenders were associated with the Mongols, the judge noted that there was no relationship between the Mongols MC and the offending. Judge Pillay told Hurmiz, "You took the deliberate decision to fire and discharged at least 2 shots in close proximity to the victim and the co-accused. It is true that you are charged with a reckless disregard for the safety of the victim, as opposed to actual intent to harm. There is great hope for you in the future if you make positive decisions." The judge further added that he hopes that this result teaches him a lesson, and he turns away from the path of criminality.